use many strategies to solve percent problems. An interesting strategy is to consider how to calculate sales tax. Recently, I went on a trip to New Brunswick. I needed to figure out the HST, which is 13% of the cost of an item, so that's 13% as HST in New Brunswick. I know that 13% can also be expressed as 10 plus 3 times 1%. If I think about 100% of the cost of my video game that I want to purchase being $56, then I could also say that 10% of the $56 video game will be $5.60. I could also say that 1% of it will be 56 cents. However, I need 3 of those 1%. So I need to figure out 3 times 56 cents. 3 times 56 cents is $1.68. So I need to add my 3 times 1%, which is $1.68, my 10%, $5.60, plus my original $56. And this time I'll write it with the cents, giving me a total of $56 plus $7.28, which gives me a total of $63.28. A normal tip is between 15% and 20%, assuming that your service has been fairly good. Let's say your bill comes to $23.46, and you want to figure out what an appropriate tip would be. We could say that 10% of that amount is $2.35. The reason that I said $2.35 is that if I were to round this up, that would give me 35 cents. So it's approximate, but it's always nice to err on the side of giving a little bit more. 5% then of that amount, if I wanted to figure out 15%, will be $1 and half of 35, or about 18 cents. Once again, 35 doesn't divide evenly by 2, but 18 plus 18 is 36 cents. So again, we're fairly close. In order to figure out 15% then, 15% will be the sum of our 10% plus our 5%. And that will be $2.35 plus $1.18, which will give us $3.53. Let's say we wanted to do 20%. We could simply double 235. 20% is the same as 2 times 10%, and that will be 2 times $2.35, which will be $4.70. So as I look at these two amounts, I'm looking at two amounts that really aren't very easy to add to $23.46. So what I would likely do is to take a number that is close to that. So I might say my total for the restaurant bill is like $23.50. And I might think of having a number that's closer to $3.50, but I know that 20% is $4.70, so I might choose a number in between. I'm going to add $4 because that makes a nice tidy sum of $27.50, which is somewhere in between 15 and 20% that I'm going to give to the server for my meal. Now let's say your friend says she has 60% of the money that she needs to buy a new phone, and she has $75. How much will the phone actually be? Let's take a look at this 60%. We know that if we converted that to tenths, that we would have 6/10. We could also say that 6/10 is the same as 3/5. Now let's consider the $75. Our fraction means that we have 3 parts out of 5. If 75 is made of 3 parts, then each one of those parts must be 25. So we could say that 1/5 equals $25. That means that if we need to have 5/5, then we need $25 times 5. And that means that the phone must cost $125. So in this way, we can use some of the knowledge that we have of fractions to help us with our understanding of percents.